Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you could join us today. I know that when we were out at Cisco Live, I'm sure everybody saw a ton of stuff. So just a quick refresher on what is this whole local management concept and what is Uplogix. So Uplogix is a local network management platform. And what that means is we are physically located in the exact same rack with the gear that we're managing. We are connected via a dedicated piece of copper, Cat5, to the console of each of the pieces of equipment that we're managing, such as that router, that firewall, that switch, that server that you see there. We complement your existing network management solutions by providing a very rich set of data at the very edge, at the very remote of your network. So what does that rack really look like? You can see we've got those console connections. Because we're going over the console, we can pull very frequently without having any tax on your network. So by default, we go every 30 seconds and check the state of the equipment, collect key parameters about what's going on, the health of your remote site there. And you can see that we're also integrated with Smart Power. And then you see our Uplogix local manager there at the bottom of that rack. And what that is that's our piece of equipment that lives with your remote site, and we've got all of our built-in intelligence, our automation, everything is there right next to the stuff that we're managing. So what does that look like in your remote site? So let's just pull that out. Maybe this is in your branch office in Singapore. Maybe you've got your Uplogix local manager in your data center that's across the street, that's in your colo. Everybody has a different definition of remote site, but it's basically where you are not. What we do is we connect those local and those remote sites back into your NOC and report into our Uplogix control center, which stays in your NOC. So what are we doing for you there when your network is up and green and everything's happy, all of your centralized management tools are saying everything's great and green across all your dashboards? What we're doing there on the remote side is we are helping to manage your configuration. So every piece of equipment that we're connected to, we are pulling down its configuration and we're storing it locally. And in fact, we'll store up to 27 different versions of that configuration and keep that locally. We'll also pull down, again, that key parameter data and keep that local for you. As things are going on your equipment, we're comprehensively logging and keeping track of every keystroke that's coming across that console. So whether it's something that a user types in or it's something that the device itself spits out, we're going to capture that in our log and keep that locally. Now, we will tie into your TACX and Radius servers back in your NOC, and we do have a very granular role-based administration system. So for instance, let's say you have a firewall team and you only want them to be able to access the firewalls. What we can do is we can create a role that defines that group and grant them the permissions to have all the administrative rights on the firewall, but not even see anything else that's at that remote site. Or say, for instance, you have a level 1 tech. You want them to be able to investigate if there is something going on, but you don't want them taking any actions. Every single command on the Uplogix is permissionable, so we can create a role that's tailored to the specific environment in your company. And finally, again, I talked about that polling every 30 seconds. What we're doing is we're collecting key pieces of data, the information that you would have and you would search for if you were directly connected over the console to that equipment. We are pulling down more detailed information than you would normally if you were going over SNMP, simply because since we're not taxing the network, we might as well collect it for you, and then it's there at your fingertips should you need it. Now, what happens when your network is having an issue, when your dashboards start going red or yellow? We still have those configurations available to you. So let's say, for instance, you are updating some information on that router at that remote site, and you just happen to accidentally fat finger something and you saw off the branch that you're standing on. Well, normally that's a huge problem, right? Normally you would have to pick up the phone and actually call someone to help you out of the situation, but not with the Uplogix. With the Uplogix, we recognize that the terminal session that you're in working on that router has zero activity, and we automatically close it out. We will then look at the configuration and compare it against the configuration that we pulled just prior to you going into a terminal session with that router, and we will recognize that there are differences. And what we'll do is we will ask you to commit the changes that you made during your session. Now, obviously, you are off going and getting a cup of coffee because you are not there to commit those changes. And we'll put a little countdown clock on it. We'll count down, and once that countdown's over and you haven't committed those changes, we will line by line surgically roll back all the changes that you made. So by the time you get back to your desk from getting that cup of coffee, you've got that access to that router again. You can go back in and make the changes that you had intended to make. Now, because we're storing both the configuration as well as up to 3 versions of the operating system locally for each device, we can also help you in a situation when the router is down completely. So say, for instance, your router dies and you have to send a new one to the site. Don't bother to send a tech. As long as you have a person there who can handle the layer 1 stuff, the actual physical cabling, throw it into the rack, plug the cables into the exact same place they were before, the Uplogix is going to query that router. We're going to recognize that we're missing a configuration. We're going to recognize that maybe even the OS is different than the one that we had stored locally. And we're also going to recognize that the serial number is different. And we're going to realize, hey, a change has been made. And we're going to automatically push out the last known good configuration, push out the last known good operating system, and before you even know it, that router is back up to where you were before its predecessor died. Now, you'll see in this situation, we've drawn an extra line here, and we've called it the secure out-of-band link. What happens when your primary network goes down is the Uplogix will automatically spin up an out-of-band connection. And that out-of-band connection can be anything from a POTS line, if you happen to have one available, say if you're in a data center setting, to a cellular modem if you've got good cell coverage, or even something as extreme as an Iridium connection or some other satellite link connection back to your NOC. And what we'll do is we'll reconnect back to your TACX, to your radio servers. So if somebody needs to come in over that out-of-band link, they're not going to use a break glass password. We're going to force them to use their secure password. We're going to continue to log every keystroke that's made, so you don't ever have to wonder, what did Bob do to fix that site during that outage? Because the Uplogix is recording everything that's going on in his session log. And finally, I talked a little bit about the intelligence of the Uplogix Local Manager. We do have automation built in. We've got scripts built in already. We've got the runbook for Cisco TAC already coded into our product so that we can recognize known error states and automatically take actions to repair them for you, just like if you had a level 1 tech on site. But, say for instance you've got some equipment out there where you want to take some specific actions that are tailored exactly to how your runbook would go. What we do is we give you access to a flexible rules engine so that you can actually go in and write rules yourself so that the Uplogix manager will behave exactly as you want it to. You can train that local manager to take the same actions that you would take in an outage or you would take in an error situation. The other thing that offers you is the ability to learn new equipment, to be able to pretty much interact with anything on your network in exactly the manner that you would like based on your company policies.